Welcome. I'm Rabbi Robin Frisch, and this is the Mazel Pups podcast. If you're Jewish or Jewish, however you define that, and you love dogs, this is the podcast for you. I'm very excited about today's guest, the very talented artist, Ben Lenovitz. Ben works in various medium and creates all types of interesting art, but today we're going to be focusing particularly on his portraits of dogs. He has painted lots of people's dogs, and you can find samples of portraits on his website, which we'll give you a link to and mention at the end. But first, Ben, we're going to start with our lightning round. I have 4 questions for you, just like at a Passover Seder. The first one is, do you have a dog?
I don't.
You don't. So I have to say, probably not surprising on our Mazel Pups podcast, that's a bit unusual. So can you tell everyone why you don't have a dog, or one of the reasons why you don't have a dog?
I'm very, very allergic.
That is a very
And
good reason. And going to shift gears a moment to Judaism and ask you, what is it that you like the most about Judaism?
I like Larry David.
Mm-hmm.
I like Jewish comedy. But I've been to Israel a couple times, but I don't have much of a connection.
So,
Uh,
so can I ask, and the
yeah.
answer might be no, but do you have a favorite Jewish holiday?
Um, yeah, I like Purim
That's a fun one.
because I went to Purim parties this year. Yeah,
Fun.
yeah.
So getting to your work, you mentioned your allergies. So I would be curious, growing up, you probably did not have a dog, but did you have any other pets growing up?
Yeah, I grew up with a bunch of reptiles. My dad's from Miami, and he had an alligator in his tub when he was little, and he just like was always playing with large snakes, and that's what yeah, we just always had different types of snakes in our house.
So the reptiles weren't necessarily a result of your allergies. It was something from your dad's childhood that he was fond
It
of?
was a it was a combination. They used to have a dog, but once I was born, they had to get rid of it because I was so having strong
Wow.
allergic reactions to the Dalmatian.
So my middle son is actually just a little bit allergic to dogs, which we didn't know until we had a dog for a few years. And we took him then to the allergist. And I remember saying to my son, who was a young teenager at the time, I love you very much, and we'll really miss you if we have to get rid of you because of the dog. But we did keep both. He ended up not
Okay,
having to do shots or pills. When he does come home from college now, if the dog's been hanging out on his bed, one of our dogs, he definitely notices it. So I try to keep his door
yeah.
shut the few weeks before he comes home. Um, so you're an artist. Is this something you were always interested in when you were growing up? Was art something that you really loved? Did you take art classes at school or art classes outside of school? Or was it something you came to when you were older?
It was something I was really passionate about in college. I became obsessed with, and I would just draw constantly. It would relax me, and I would just draw faces or characters over and over again. And then,
Were you an
yeah,
art
so
major or was it more of a hobby at
yeah,
that point? You were.
yeah, I was an art major. Yeah.
And did you have a certain style? You mentioned drawing faces. Like, did you find at that point that you had a certain style that you were developing, or was that just for fun and relaxation?
It was always for fun. So I think that that was part of like the recipe of why I could I it had to be for fun. It wasn't like forced or anything. It didn't feel like homework. Art homework never felt like homework.
Did you think going into college or while you were in college, like, this is what I want to do for my career? Or did you think this is a great hobby and then I'm going to have to get a job when college is over?
I always thought I could be a painter, which was like very naive. But a bunch of like lucky circumstances organically happened where I used to paint like really large and messy, and like Jackson Pollock and like all these cool like action painters like Basquiat were
Mhm.
really inspiring. But it was like very expensive, and I didn't have like the storage to make these kind of paintings. So senior year, I kind of went full opposite. I started working in my notebook. I just drew in my notebook constantly, and I found the notebook to be really a much more like intimate space because if you mess up, you can just turn the page. So there's like low risk in making a new type of work. Like I could experiment more. Where making big oil paintings, it's more like all the art students would see, and I just felt a little more exposed.
It almost sounds like when people journal, like that very personal
Yeah,
expressing your
exactly. Yeah,
feelings.
yeah, yeah. It felt like journaling. And so, but my senior year, I had to like present my. I had to have a show, but and I just had my notebooks, and that's not a show. So I in this digital printing class and woodworking class, I learned how to print on wood, and I used to cut out these blocks with my drawings on it. And that summer, some Japanese company wholesale purchased a bunch of these blocks and flew me out to Osaka to go do like this New York event where I was supposed to like draw Statue of Liberties on repeat, and some people there asked for their dogs and cats to be painted. And I don't even look at dogs or cats. I never grew up with them or anything. And then when I was yeah, so I learned in Osaka about pet portraits and how much of an amazing subject it is, how I feel appreciated, how there's a lot of grief. A lot of customers are processing their grief and
Hmm.
or just showing uh, a love to their pet. So yeah, when I came back from Osaka, I was like, holy shit, this is the best job ever, and like I'm gonna do this full time, and it became full time immediately.
So this was right after college.
This was like so I did the blocks for 5 years. The wood blocks. I
Hmm.
tried selling those for 5 years, and I just broke even. And this company in Osaka, 5 years later, got I did pet portraits 5 years after college. When I first did pet portraits in New York, I did like 10 hours of doing pet portraits at like donation based.
Hmm.
Like you can pay whatever you want for a pet portrait, and I had $500 in my pocket, and that was insane. So I couldn't believe that I got that much money for just painting something I that's fun. So yeah, from there it developed into more.
So you came back from Osaka and realized like this pet portrait thing is something I could go with and enjoy and actually
Yeah,
be
exactly. And I
productive and
paint,
make money.
yeah, and I paint fast, and that's kind of my style. So I can do it on the spot. And acrylic paint dries pretty fast too if you put it in front of a fan, so the customers can walk out with the portrait immediately.
Do you find that those people who have that experience of watching you paint their pet really enjoy it and that adds something? Was that like a really special experience for them to be able to witness the painting being made?
Yeah, it's way more intimate, and they get to like see their pet form. Like I was doing pet portraits last year in Tokyo, and this mom and her two daughters lost their dog suddenly while they were at school, and they never got a chance to say goodbye to the dog. So as I was like drawing the eyes, they told me afterwards in Japanese, and then there's a translator who told me that they were able to say goodbye while I was painting the portrait.
So it's interesting as a non dog or cat owner, you're getting that sense of the connection people feel to their pets, and you certainly see that.
I had no idea. For I know now, like for I feel like I understand as best as I can, but it's family.
Yeah.
Um, and and I guess it's hard to feel that way with like snakes.
I was going to ask you, I'm sure you loved your
Yeah.
snakes, but it's a little bit of a different
No,
connection,
I
probably.
don't remember
They don't
them.
sleep in your bed. They, take them for a walk all
No,
the time.
yeah,
You probably don't cuddle with them in the same way. Um,
yeah,
so, do you ever, and I am a total non artist, but I'm
yeah.
curious with artists, do you ever get bored of painting essential? I mean, obviously, every dog, every cat's different, but of painting the same type of thing over and over?
Yeah, very bored. Yeah, yeah.
And so, what's your schedule like when you're not in Tokyo or somewhere, very exciting and different and doing your painting in public? And I will get in a moment to you're doing that actually in New York. But I assume there are some days that you're painting at home. And do you have a certain schedule that you tend to keep to make sure you get out, to make sure you get a break? Or, how does it work when you have paintings you're doing from home?
I actually just paint at the store at Fishs Eddy. Um, and Yeah, I'm just there like all the time. I tell people I'm there on Saturdays, but I'm there always. So people can walk in whenever, but I'm definitely there Saturdays
And you paint
for people
publicly,
to go.
right? You don't have like a hidden
Yeah,
studio.
yeah,
People can
it's
watch you.
in front of people. Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about Fishs Eddy and your connection and how you ended up painting there and what it's like?
It's my mom's store, and they started it when they were 22 in like the West Village, and just with like $500 of to like the landlord, and then it just developed into a bigger business going upstate, finding like incredible merchandise and they just drive it back down, and the name was catchy. Their locations were really good, and then it just developed into more of like a well-known Chinaware shop.
So, when you were growing up, that's what your parents were doing. That's where they went to work.
Yeah, they would go there. Yeah.
And whose idea was it for you to come there and do art there? And how did that take off?
Well, they have this room in the back that they used to that was just like for like props. And they were trying to sell the props, and I and they were it wasn't like a good it wasn't doing very well, that room. So I just when I came back from Tokyo, I asked if I could clear it out and do like a donation based pet portrait event, and like 30 people came, and there was a
Wow.
line, and just shocked the
And you
react.
weren't
I
a
was just
name yet in
absolutely
New
shocked.
York. It's not that people knew who you were.
Well, Fishs Eddy, I posted saying we're doing pet portrait events, and just like a ton of people with dogs came, and they brought their dogs. So it was like stories like like lots of barking, and like and the customers, the dog parents really got to like get to know each other. I guess this is what happens at dog parks. Like it's like
Hmm.
you're curious about people, and yeah, and you share a love for your pets. So
And I think, especially in New York, even though there's so many people, sometimes people feel very alone. And, if shopping in a store, you may not ask someone something, but if you have your dogs there, it gives you a reason to talk. I'm curious, though, with your allergies, how that was for you.
it's tough. I have to shower afterwards,
Yeah.
and I have an inhaler ready to go.
So, do you enjoy painting there? Has that been a positive experience for you?
It's really fun. I really love it. Yeah.
Is your mom still there during the day? Do you get to see her when
Yeah,
you're?
she's there like most days. She's like she has this megaphone now, and she like shouts to people. Yeah. She do you, if you watch The Office, she's like Michael Scott
Oh, that's great.
at the store. Yeah.
Do you like painting with people watching you? Do you find that more enjoyable, or do you like doing it alone if you have a preference?
Uh I like both. They're totally different. If I'm painting alone, I'll listen to an audiobook, but if I'm painting with someone watching me, I get to meet them, and it's just more social, and I feel a more of a pressure, which I like
Hmm.
to perform. Both are good. I don't like just doing one though.
So I'm curious now that you are well known and you're very busy as an artist, do you still draw pictures in your journal? Do you have time for that or desire for that?
Yeah, I do. After Christmas, I try to take like a little vacation, and I bring a bunch of notebooks, and I just draw uh like obsessively, and it feels amazing. Uh, and hopefully that's what I want to do for my business, but
Hmm.
nobody really buys my personal work so much. So hopefully one day, if the pet portraits get bigger and bigger, I think it'll bleed over into people wanting to buy my other artwork.
It makes sense. It makes total sense. So, what advice would you give if a kid came to you, a teenager or maybe a college student, and they said, I want to be an artist? What should I do?
There's two different sides to this. Like you have the financial side, like the business side, and then you have the passion side. And I think pet portraits. I Any artist, I always recommend like you should get into pet portraits. There's more than enough business around, and you can just you can do it for family friends, and do it for free and get some really cool photos with the pet and the portrait. And then that's the beginning of your business. It's very organic. And then for artistic passion, I think it should be fun. It has to be fun, and it's also it's important to have a community, which I don't have so much. I think having art friends is really important, and like that's why I loved art school. It's just you drawing, so it's
Yeah.
supposed to be lonely also. I think of it as like for I would give the advice. Think of it as like a exploration, and don't pigeonhole yourself. Keep changing and drawing and learning from your previous painting to upgrade.
So one of the things I find fun about your paintings is that they have the pet's name. So I get to see when I look at your website all the different dogs' names. So I'm curious if there are names that have been your favorite or that you've been surprised by. And also now I'm curious, what do you do about that in Japan? Do you write their name in Japanese to someone else? Do you write it in English?
They really want it in English. They get
Oh, that's good.
excited
That
that it's
works
in
well.
English. Yeah. Yeah.
Do they have names that are easy to translate, or do you have to have them like say the name very clearly and then figure out how to spell it in English?
No, it's really easy. Yeah, they have like super it's yeah, the names aren't too hard. Yeah. They're like foods usually,
Oh,
like
interesting.
tofu.
And what about here? Have you seen any names that surprised you or you thought were really cute
Yeah.
or silly?
Poopy face is one
That's,
name.
that's
And it's a white dog with this brown marking just on its face. I like poopy face. Um, do you know Pasta Batman by chance? The
no.
from This American Life. Pasta Batman's from a story where these two boys were trying to come up with the name of their dog. One wanted to name it Pasta, the other one wanted to name it
That's great.
Batman. So the mom said, "Okay, it'll be Pasta Batman." So I love that name from the podcast, and so I made an extra portrait. I just named it Pasta Batman, and then the owner coincidentally, well, the owner's friend was in Fishs Eddy. He's like, I know Pasta Batman. I know the real Pasta Batman. That
Oh,
was my
that's very cool.
friend's dog. Yeah.
That is very. Did you know what Pasta Batman looked like? The actual dog?
No,
Or
and it no, but the craziest part is it looks like Pasta Batman, like the dog.
just as you imagined a Pasta Batman would look?
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you've touched on this, but I'm curious if there's anything else. What is the most challenging part of the work you do?
I think for the last couple of years, I have I see a pet portrait and I do I don't I kind of like I characterize the painting. I make assumptions and I'm not always looking at the photo as well as I should. And I just actually took an art class with a professional, and she gave me incredible advice that I use all the time now, and it's really look at the photo because I'm kind of like gazing through it and like just like, oh, it's another Bichon, it's another Bichon. But uh I feel like my art abilities have been upgraded ever since I have that advice because I'm looking at the fur differently. I'm looking at the fur as it is and
Hmm.
not like, oh, this is where the fluffy part is. Uh, so I think just staying focused is what I have trouble with.
And what about what's the most rewarding part?
The most rewarding part is um, talking to the customers, probably. It's really exciting. Yeah. And I- yeah, it's just awesome to see their reaction. It's really the best job in the world. Uh, um, and yeah, and there's all different types of customers that and everyone has and they're so into when because uh like maybe in like when you're not making eye contact with somebody and you're talking to them and I'm painting and they can really open up
Yeah.
in that dynamic uh and so they tell me about their pet they and they they tell me about their life, and it's intimate. So it's lots of like really good conversation.
You know what that reminds me of in a way? It's obviously very different, but I remember when my children were little reading advice from a psychologist that sometimes the best time to talk to your kids is when you're in the car because you're focused straight ahead and not
Mm.
making eye contact. And most of us, tend to think you're going to have the best conversation when you're making eye contact. But sometimes, especially when it's a conversation with someone you've never met before, or your children, that sometimes it's not having that pressure, the eye contact, I think that can cause people to open up. And also you're painting something that's so special to them, their dog, that they want you to know about the dog and about their
Yeah.
life even, because you're doing something that's really meaningful to them. I mean, you make people happy. Anything else that you want our listeners to know about you, your art, getting in touch with you if they're interested or following you?
Come by Fishs Eddy. I'll be there all the time. You can bring a photo from your phone, or the real thing. And and I paint them on the spot. It takes about 20 minutes.
And I would also encourage them to follow you on Instagram at Ben Lenovitz. I love looking at all your pictures. They're awesome. It's a lot of fun. And your website is benlenovitz.com. We'll have links to all of that, but I would highly encourage people to check that out. So, Ben, it was wonderful to talk to you. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time and for sharing about the work that you do and how you ended up doing that work. I want to thank all of our listeners for being here. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and I hope you come back for our next podcast.
Hello, shalom friends. I'm Bo, one of Rabbi Robin's dogs and our original Mazel Pup. If you enjoyed today's podcast, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give us a pawesome 5-star rating, and follow us on social media. Thanks for listening.